Welcome to the Vinyl Dens segment on channel 33 RPM. This is where we check out cool music rooms from across the vinyl community and around the world. This is from Mark, and he says, "Hi, I'm Mark. I'm 53 years old, and I live in Lansing, Michigan, USA. He says, I got back into vinyl maybe 7 years ago. I actually bought this house because of this room." Check out this room, man. He says, it's a little over 1,000 square feet. It's an addition off the back of the house. And it has been turned into the vinyl den slash bar slash theater room and arcade. This is my dream. This is my dream. Mark says, I built the record rack this spring. It's made to house about 1,100 albums and it's almost full. My main rack, he says, features all vintage equipment. The reel-to-reel player is an Akai. The turntable is a Sony fully automatic from the late 70s. All the other gear in this particular rack is Sony as well. All the speakers in the room, I've never heard of this company, DCM, out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. It says, by the boombox are signed drumsticks from Neil Peart and Mike Portnoy. Neil Peart, that's cool. He says above the Pioneer turntable is a signed drum head from Jason Bonham. The home theater area features a 130-inch projector screen. In my theater room, I have a 100-inch screen. I always wish I'd gone slightly bigger. That's the whole thing. You always go for as big as you can fit, because inevitably you're going to want bigger. Mark says there's a surround sound system there and a third turntable, an old Techniques linear tracking turntable. Aha, he's got an Atari 2600 console hooked up to the projector for a little retro gaming. I love retro gaming. I still have, believe it or not, my original Atari 2600 that I got for Christmas in like 1982. He says in the center of the room, there's a pool table, air hockey, and a bar that Mark built a couple of years ago. Behind the bar is a 65-inch TV hooked up to the main sound system. It connected to the music and movies server with a couple hundred movies and TV shows and around 150,000 songs. In the back of the room is the arcade area with a candy and gumball machine, a sit-down cocktail arcade cabinet, a 100-disc CD jukebox. It's got pinball, Star Wars arcade, and a custom arcade cabinet. And then Mark says the cool part about this room is that it was done on a small budget. Everything in the room was purchased used. The pool table was free. Free is good. Free is good. The only thing we bought new was the couch. Everything else came off of eBay or Facebook Marketplace. This has got to be one of the coolest music rooms I have seen in some time. I'm blown away, man. 1,100 square feet of fun. All right, this next one's kind of cool. I got all kinds of submissions, but this one stands out. It comes from 12-year-old Ari Harris in New Mexico, USA. And Ari writes, I have a small collection since I've only been collecting for a little less than a year, and it makes me so happy. My collection includes the Beatles, Led Zeppelin, the Cars, Bob Dylan, CCR, the Monkees, and my favorite, Pink Floyd. He says he has a $40 turntable from Amazon, but it works for me. This just speaks to the fact that those suitcase-style record players serve an important purpose, and that is helping people, particularly young people, get into this whole vinyl thing. So I don't go for them. People bash those all-in-ones. Not at all. They totally have a place. He says, I also have a Kenwood stereo system. The CD player doesn't work, but the cassette player works. I have a small collection of them. I also have an Alexa, but that doesn't really count. You know, the cool thing about Alexa, I wish I had that when I was a kid. I mean, you have access to so much music on there just using voice commands. He says, I've been watching you on YouTube nonstop for the last couple of months. Thank you, Ari, and I love the Vinyl Den videos and hope I am on some time. Get it? Time. It's a Pink Floyd reference. Sorry, that was really bad. Awesome, Ari. Thank you for sending this and knowing that a 12-year-old is into music like this. Gives me hope for the future. Okay, this one comes from Scott. He is located in Bruton, Alabama. Bruton, Alabama, USA. And he writes, while it's not a true den, I wanted to share my listening loft space, which is an open loft on our second floor. I always loved lofts. This place is cool, man. And the advantage is I can fill our home with music when so desired. At 60 years old now, I began collecting records in my teens. I was lured away from vinyl by ones and zeros in the mid-80s. He says, I began rebuilding my collection of wax a little while back, and it's become an absolute passion. It's turned into family affairs. My wife and 2 adult children also appreciate the depth found in the analog grooves. Highlights from Scott's system include turntables. He's got a dual CS429 with an Ortophon Ortophone 2M red. Very popular cartridge. He's also got an Audio-Technica LP120X USB with an Ortophone 2M blue for a CD player. He's got the Project CD box. I gotta confess, up until this point, I didn't know that project. I think some people say I'm wrong when I say project, but it's got that dash in there, which makes me believe it's project. But whatever, project or project. I didn't know that Project made CD players, but this looks like a really nice one. It retails for around $900 US. For his preamp and amp, those are all Emotiva. He's got some JBL speakers, and he's got a stereo cabinet and speaker stands that were home built by Scott himself. I love the space. It's kind of, the whole loft thing is pretty awesome. It's a compact space, but as you said, that sound just fills the house. Cool space, man. By the way, if you are interested in submitting your room for consideration in a future episode of Vinyl Dens, I have all the information you need to know in the description below this video. Also, I'm a little bit behind getting everyone's Vinyl Dens up on the channel, so if you haven't seen yours yet, stay tuned. I'm sure it will be coming in a future video. Now back to our regularly scheduled programming. All right, this is from Tom. He says, I'm 39 years old and I live in a small town outside of Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. Ottawa is the capital of Canada. He says, I've been a musician since 1997. I've been gigging since 2012, but have always been heavily into music since I was a small child. I got into vinyl records about 8 months ago when I inherited some albums. This is my small listening room, which backs off the bar area in my back room. For some reason, I thought this was a basement, but he says it's a back room. So which leads me to believe it's on the main floor, but it has that basement kind of vibe, which I really dig. He says, I'm using a Fluence RT81 in piano white with some Edifier bookshelf speakers that I was able to get used. These speakers are plenty for the small space, and the sound has been excellent in my opinion. It's all about finding something you like, right? Some people may think, oh, Fluence RT81 and Edifiers, it's not good enough. Or someone might say a Crossley turntable is not good enough. Or someone may say my Techniques SL1200 is not good enough. It's all about finding what you like. Tom says, I've run some LED lights around the ceiling perimeter of this music space, which certainly adds to the ambiance while listening. Yeah, it looks cool, man. He says, I have seating for 1, 2, 3 people in the listening space, but there's some more seating in the specific bar area directly behind my comfy chair. I love this bar area. That is very cool. I see he's got the hockey jerseys for the Flames and the Oilers side by side. And this table, this is a cool looking table made up of all those different bottle caps. Again, that's perfect for kind of a bar area. This is a cool place, man. I'd love to hang out there, Tom. Fantastic space. This is from Norm, a basement dweller like myself. I don't live in the basement, but this is where I hang out a lot, where the movies are, the music and whatnot. So let's see what Norm says. He says, my name is Norm. I'm 56 years old and live about an hour outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. That's in Canada on the West Coast. He says, I've been collecting since I was a teenager. I have about 900 records and hundreds of CDs, as well as SACDs, DVD audio, and Blu-ray pure audio. Let's go through some of his gear highlights. Norm has a Riga RP6 turntable with an Ortophone bronze cartridge. He's got an OPPO 205 Blu-ray SACD player. This is an awesome 4K player. It's discontinued, but new. It retailed for $1,300 US. For movies and 5.1, he's got a Denon AVR 3500. He uses Polk audio speakers, and he has a locally custom-built integrated 2-channel tube amp. This is kind of clever. He says he has stickers on all his records with some details on the albums, I guess, in case something should ever happen, so his wife can quickly look stuff up. And check this out. He says, hope you like the black light posters. I know at least one of them is very familiar to you. I had that exact same Judas Priest Screaming for Vengeance black light poster as a kid in my bedroom growing up. I wish I never got rid of it. And he says, I had the record cabinets, the two under the posters, custom built. Expensive, but worth it. Another excellent music and movie listening music listening space and movie watching space. Virgil, this comes from Virgil, who I've known via YouTube now for a few years. A really good guy. He says, hi, my name is Virgil Seaman, and I'm 67 years old, living near Pasadena, California, home of Van Halen, I think, right? He says, I retired in the fall of 2014 and visited my niece's family, noticing 30-plus-year-old adults collecting vinyl. What the heck, he says. That's when I woke up and started collecting again. I've been collecting lots of stereo gear, mostly vintage amps, preamps, CD players, cassette decks, and radio tuners. 9 years later, with 600-plus LPs in crates, 400 or more CDs, hundreds of cassette tapes, and 2/3 of my stereo gear stored in multiple bedrooms. It's a slippery slope, 33. It is a slippery slope. He says, our listening room is a converted corner bedroom with a daybed and only 10 by 11 in size. It's really, you got to make the best of the space that you have. Here he's talking about his new stereo cabinet. He says, originally I bought a stereo cabinet online, but recently completed a DIY 3-level stereo rack with the help of a friend and neighbor in his garage shop. That is a very good looking cabinet. Let's quickly go through some of his gear, some of the highlights. It includes a belt-driven VPI Scout 1.1 turntable from around 2016. We also got a Pioneer PL630 from the late 70s, a Lexman preamp, and an amp from the early 80s. It's got a Lexman AM/FM tuner, and his first integrated tube amplifier, a Wilsenton R8 from China, which he bought on Amazon. And on top of the left speakers, a Sun Valley EQ1616D tube phono amp / equalizer from Japan. I'm tongue-tied by all of this impressive gear, Virgil. Very cool, man. Okay, this next one comes from George Shelton, 61 years old, from Deltona, Florida, USA. He says he seriously started collecting music in the 1980s when he worked for a local appliance and hi-fi store. He has about 200 LPs and over 1,000 CDs. Gear highlights include PSB Stratus silver bookshelf speakers powered by a Kenwood receiver. He's got a Denon cassette deck and a Yamaha CD player. Denon DP61F turntable with, again, an Ortophone cartridge of VM-S5E Mark II. His music den also has his Jackson and Fender guitars by that Black Star amp. Good stuff, George. This next one comes from Jeff in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Jeff writes, I traveled for most of my youth as a DJ, and now that I am retired, this is my first setup that I will never have to move again. His turntable is a Bang & Olufsen Biogram RX. That Bang & Olufsen stuff sure has a unique look to it, right? It's very futuristic stuff for the 1980s. I've never owned myself any Bang & Olufsen. I'm saying that right? Olufsen. But I've always really been intrigued by all that gear. He says, the turntable looks awesome, but I advise your audience against getting one. There are no replacement cartridges for them, and to get a new one made is between $350 and $2,000. Here is the view from his bedroom, where he also has this really interesting amp. Again, a Bang & Olufsen. This is called the Biomaster 5500. It was sold from 1986 to 1989. Again, looks cool. Jeff wrote, everything for the Biomaster works with this controller. Steve Jobs modeled the first iPods after the wheel volume control. Very cool, Jeff. All right, 33ers, what did you think of today's batch of vinyl dens? Let me know in the comments below. If you want to submit your vinyl den for consideration for a future episode, check out the video description. All details are there. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Until then, keep on spinning.